Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! I remember that night like it was yesterday, even though it happened 5 years ago. It was Saturday night around 11 p.m. and I was just getting ready to hit the hay. I am an on-call tow truck operator, so I was expecting an early start the next morning. Little did I know that my night was about to take a dark and bizarre turn. As my head hit the pillow, my Nextel-style two-way radio chirped, and the dispatcher's voice came through. "Hey OP, are you still awake?" They asked. "Yeah, I'm up," I replied. "Good. We've got a one-car accident in the next town over. The police department wants it expedited. So please, hurry, but be safe." I quickly got dressed, jumped into my tow truck and headed out. It was about a 20-minute drive to the location of the accident. When I arrived, I saw a scene that was far worse than I'd expected. There were coroner and forensics vans parked in a road, surrounded by a dozen squad cars. This was not your typical one-car accident. I knew this was going to be a tough one. I parked my Peterbilt rollback at a 70-degree angle across a two-lane road, ready to assist forensics and the coroner in removing the vehicle from the drainage ditch while preserving as much evidence as possible. It was a grim scene, to say the least. As I began working on this delicate operation, I suddenly heard the frantic beeping of a car horn. I turned around, and right behind me I saw a woman who looked to be in her early 40s, and she was holding the horn down, creating a non-stop blare, all the while shouting out of her car window. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. How had she managed to get past a police roadblock set up a third of a mile up the road to keep traffic out of the accident area? Ignoring her for the moment, I turned back to my task, but after a few moments, the horn finally stopped, only to be followed by a hand grabbing my shoulder and attempting to spin me around. I'm a big guy, 6'3", 280 pounds, so there was no way this woman, who was around 5'4" and 160 pounds, was going to accomplish that feat. I took a deep breath and looked up at the sky, silently asking God for the strength not to react. I turned around and began to speak. "Ma'am, this road is closed due to a fatal accident." She cut me off. "I don't care what you have to say. Just get out of my way, I'm late." My patience was running thin as I retorted, "Listen, 5 people just died here and there is no way anyone is driving down this road for hours. I suggest you turn around and go back through the police roadblock you somehow got around. Now." She pointed furiously behind her vehicle and exclaimed, "Excuse me, I live right there, and I have to use this road to get where I'm going. You will move your truck now, or I'm calling the police." By this time, the forensics crew had gathered around, having heard the commotion over the loud noise of my truck idling and the powered takeoff engaged. These folks did not dress like police officers, especially in the middle of the night on weekends. They wore plain clothes but had badges, and they would don hazmat-style suits if necessary. Thankfully, none were needed on this scene. Just gloves and the grim task of their work. The woman's tirade continued. "Which one of you is the manager? This man won't move his goddamn truck and let me through. I am calling the police." She held the phone to the side of her head and began speaking to what we later learned was 911. One of the forensic officers attempted to explain the situation. "Ma'am, I am the police, and I don't know," but she wouldn't hear any of it. She barked, "I don't want to hear any more damn excuses. Move the effing truck now," while punctuating each word with claps. I had had enough. I turned to her, my patience spent, and said, "You dumb witch. Do your 2 remaining brain cells constantly compete for 3rd place?" The forensic officer, unable to contain a chuckle, chimed in. "Ma'am, if you don't get in your car and leave this crime scene now, you will be arrested." Just as the officer finished delivering this warning, a squad car screeched down the road from the same direction the woman had come from and stopped behind her vehicle. The officer hopped out, and the very first words out of his mouth were the woman's Miranda rights. He screamed, kicked, and swore that everyone else should be arrested, even attempting to spit on me. which led to an additional tampering with evidence charge as we were on active crime scene. When all was said and done, she faced multiple charges: obstruction, assault on an officer, misuse of 911, and interfering with an investigation. She eventually accepted a plea deal that landed her 18 weekends in the county jail. But before that, I had to tow her car. Monday morning, I met her husband and he couldn't have been more embarrassed as he apologized over and over as he paid me and then inspected the vehicle and signed off that we didn't damage it. The impound cost roughly $600 as it was police-initiated after hours and storage. Charges were $150 impound, $50 after hours, $52 a day storage, and $5 a mile each direction from our office. Our office was roughly 15 to 17 miles from there. 15 years ago, I lived in a quiet rural area with my best friend. We both grew up as the sons of police officers, his dad a highway patrolman and mine a deputy sheriff and detective. Our fathers had since retired, leaving them to live out their days comfortably. However, what transpired during our high school graduation had us sit on a path of vigilante justice that would eventually lead to a satisfying pro-revenge story. Our peaceful existence took an abrupt turn one weekend morning when my friend's family discovered their mailbox smashed and scattered along the road in front of their house. At first, we brushed it off as a hit-and-run incident, gathered up the strewn mail, bought and posted the new mailbox, and went on with life. The following weekend, the unthinkable happened yet again. This time, it was clear that someone was deliberately targeting their mailbox. It was time to put an end to this madness. That's when we decided to take matters into our own hands. Flashback a few months before my buddy's dad's retirement, he's decided not to simply quit working, but to acquire a new skill. So he went down to the local trade college and became certified as welder. This new skill would play a significant role in our quest for revenge. After the second incident of mailbox vandalism, my friend called me over to his house and we, along with his family, got to work. My friend and his dad used their newfound welding skills for cutting and shaping, while I handled the grinding. And my buddy's mom, a fantastic artist, took care of the painting. With 2 bags of cement, 7 feet of steel pipe, and the necessary rebar, we set out to create a fortress-like mailbox. The end result was an all-steel reinforced mail bunker set into the ground with 3.5 feet of concrete and road base. My friend's mom's artistic talents came into play as she painted the bunker so that it convincingly looked like it was made out of wood. The steel post was so realistic that even up close, let alone at night driving at 45 miles per hour, it could easily be mistaken for a wooden mailbox. We posted the box, had dinner, and I headed home, not knowing what was to come. A couple of weeks passed and then we hit the jackpot. On a quiet Sunday morning, my friend called me around 7 a.m. telling me to get to his house as soon as possible. When I came around the turn to their house, there it was in all its glory. A 1992 Pontiac Grand Prix wrapped around the steel pole, crushed almost to the passenger compartment. The car was abandoned, but all the necessary information needed for an arrest was conveniently left behind. It didn't take long to track down the car's owner, who quickly confessed to the vandalism. However, the story didn't end there. Inside the vehicle, we discovered a half-empty bottle of Canadian Host and beer cans strewn all over the back seat, which led to an open container charge. Adding the cost of a tow truck and the medical bills for the driver's injuries sustained during the collision, the criminal mischief charge piled up swiftly. As a final twist to the tale, I later found out that my friend's little brother had taken the opportunity to pilfer the culprit's CD collection. Realizing that our mailbox bunker could potentially put someone in harm's way, we decided to make a few adjustments. We repainted it to make it more conspicuous, ensuring that it would stand out and avoid any accidents in the future. It's important to note that while what we did was certainly unconventional and potentially dangerous, we weren't reckless or irresponsible. When we placed a new mailbox and pole, it was well within my friend's property line, safely off the road. Their family owned a farm with plenty of acreage to spare, and my friend's dad, with his tractor, cleared the large area, packed down the ground, and added a layer of the road base. The mailbox was positioned to accommodate the postal worker, allowing them to park off the road entirely when delivering mail. Furthermore, to reach the family's driveway, you had to navigate a soft turn. Anyone driving at a speed limit and without being a complete moron would have no way of accidentally hitting the mailbox unless they intentionally swerved off, of course. In essence, we created a mailbox that was incredibly visible and avoided any risk to innocent passerby while taking our sweet revenge on a reckless driver. I work at a translation office. Our job is basically to translate official documents, work certificates, academic degrees, medical papers, and so on, to be used in other countries. The whole service is controlled and monitored by the judiciary. We are basically under their direct supervision. My boss had to be directly certified by the court. Some countries also require our translation to be double certified by the local courts and/or the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. It's pretty routine work most of the time, but since these are official documents, there are a lot of rules we have to follow, like what documents can be issued at an official translation and how much we are allowed to charge, down to the smallest pennies. My boss is usually a super cool guy and does all he can to help people who come in, sometimes even refusing pay from people who can't afford it, even though he still has to pay the tax for the income since it gets registered in the system. Now, this is actually something my boss did. I fully agreed with him, but it wasn't my call to make. Last week, some guy, let's call him Mr. X, came in and brought us a bunch of documents to translate, including work certificates, his academic diploma, and a transcript of his grades, and some other stuff. He brought them in 2 batches, so by the time we received the second set of documents, his first set was already translated and double certified by the courts and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. His grade transcripts were in the first batch, and his diploma was in the second batch. This will be important later. At first, he refused to give us his diploma, saying that his mother had hidden the documents to prevent him from traveling abroad. Not the strangest thing we've heard, so whatever. But we kindly informed them that we are not allowed to issue a translation of copies and have to at least see the original document. So does the court and ministry. So he goes and gets it a couple of days later. Now, I was the one in charge of his translations, and the moment I picked up his diploma, something felt off. It was too heavy. I actually had to check several times to make sure it wasn't 2 or 3 documents stuck together. A closer examination showed that a postage stamp attached to the back was not real, but instead a copy. Strange. I called my boss since now I'm pretty sure this is forgery, and he came, checked the document, but it's really strange. These documents have forgery prevention measures like holograms, UV light-sensitive prints, and seals, and most of them are in order except the stamp on the back and the fact that the photocopy looks strange. At this point, I just suggested calling the police and letting them deal with it, but my boss, the good guy that he is, didn't want to get the guy in trouble and said he wasn't 100% sure, more like 90%, so he had someone bring it to the court to check, but instructed that person to be discreet, get their opinion and get out with the document, not leave it there as evidence. So they did just that, and within the hour the document was back in our hands with a suggestion from a court official that we probably should treat it as a forgery. Hearing that, my boss decides to give the fake diploma to the guy and send him away, as long as he brings us the translation we issued for his grad transcripts, which was for the same course as a diploma, so it was also probably fake. He even offered to pay back the money he paid, just get the translation to us, get your things, and go be a criminal somewhere else. Pretty lenient if you ask me, but it's his business, not mine. The next day, we get a call from the local court asking us why are we refusing to send a document belonging to Mr. X to the court to be certified. Turns out the guy had gone to court and filed a complaint against us because we refused to do his work. So now my boss is pissed and does just as Mr. X wanted. Sends the forged diploma to the court. They of course immediately can tell it's a forgery. They seized it, opened an investigation against Mr. X, and now he's on a hook for multiple crimes, some of them with serious jail time. The court also asked us to give them the serial number for all the documents ever translated under this guy's name. Everything, including ID documents, work certificates, everything, so that they can contact all embassies and warn them about the possibility of forgery, which probably means the guy will be blacklisted in every country that matters. My boss made some excuse at first about not having all the serial numbers ready, but then Mr. X came in on Monday with his father and issued some strange threats. So the next workday, all the serial numbers were at court. We also didn't have to pay his money back. And to think, had he just done as asked, he wouldn't be on the hook for so many crimes and he would also receive a full refund. I would still call the police personally, but I have to admit, this was more entertaining. My wife and I are both vegan, but we don't make a big deal out of it. We don't judge others for their choices and we don't accept them to accommodate us. We usually just find something we can eat wherever we go, or eat beforehand if we know the options are limited. One of my friends invited us to his birthday dinner at a restaurant in Brooklyn. He said it was a last-minute thing and he didn't have time to make reservations. So, we just had to show up and hope for the best. We checked the menu online and saw that there were not many vegan options except for chips and guacamole, hummus, and bread. We decided to eat a snack at home and then order drinks and appetizers at the restaurant. We also have been tight with money lately because of some medical expenses, so we didn't want to spend too much on food we couldn't eat anyway. When we got to the restaurant, we found out that they were doing it all family style and splitting the bill evenly among everyone. There were about 15 people in our group and they ordered a lot of food, most of which was meat or cheese based. The only thing we could eat was the bread, so we just had a couple of slices each and 2 drink cans each. At the end of the night, my friend sent me a Venmo request for $120 for our share of the dinner. I was shocked by the amount, since our 4 drinks were only $32 plus tip, so about $40. I texted him back and explained that we didn't know it was going to be family style, and that we only had the drink cans and some bread. I said I would send him $60 to cover our drinks and a bit extra for the bread. He got angry and said that we should have told him we were vegan, and that it was rude to not participate in the family-style dinner. He said that everyone else paid their fair share and that we were being cheap and selfish. He said that he expected us to pay the full amount. The decision to make it a family-style meal was made at the last second too, because the restaurant had no idea a party of 15 was showing up. Otherwise, we could have split the bill per party and been fine. I don't think we did anything wrong. We didn't ask for any special treatment and we didn't complain about the food. We just ate what we could and tried to have a good time. We also didn't want to make a scene or cause any drama by announcing our dietary preferences. We thought $60 was more than enough for what we consumed, and we didn't want to pay for food we couldn't eat. Am I the jerk here? And now some comments on the post. Someone saying, changing my verdict to everyone sucks for refusing to pay $120 and your friend is kinda being a jerk about it. But I do think to some extent that it would have helped if you'd been a little more upfront about saying, hey, there is really nothing here we can eat. So that they'd have either tried to order more of the very few items you could eat or not have expected you to pay as much. I hate this method of paying for meals, but if you know it's going to be split up like that, it's probably better to speak up early than wait until after the meal is over to negotiate what's fair for you. It's also tough to be the person who has a request payment for everybody at the end of a meal. And I'm wondering if he got stuck paying double or if the rest of the party made up for the other half of what he'd requested from you. Another commenter adds, you are the jerk because of this. Quote, when we got to the restaurant we found out that they were doing it all family style and splitting the bill evenly among everyone. You knew it would be a problem from the start. You should have mentioned something right then and there. Third commenter goes with, everybody sucks. You should have told them when you realized that everyone was going to order family style and split the bill evenly that you and your wife wanted to be excluded since you were vegan. That way you could have ordered what you wanted and paid for what you wanted, and the rest of the bill could have been split evenly amongst those who enjoyed it. By not mentioning you were vegan, pretending to go along with it, then refusing to pay more than your share, you heap the $60 that you refused to pay onto your friend, rather than having it split evenly over the entire group. He gets jerk status too, however, for calling you rude not to participate in a family-style dinner. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.